particularly excited to be here today to talk to you about a passion of mine, which is humanitarian work. And I know that what I want to talk about today, as you can see up there, is an incredibly sobering topic. It's also a controversial one. See, a lot of people know me as Nolan Watson, the business person who has started up some companies that are large public companies now, and who has raised billions of dollars and who has invested billions of dollars. But very few people know the other part of me, and I want to spend a couple minutes talking about that today. Because when I go on to explain what I mean by compassion kills, I want you to understand where I'm coming from and where my heart is. See, I was raised by two compassionate parents. In fact, I think it's going on almost 2 decades now that my mother has been volunteering at a hospital to just sit there and talk with sick or dying people to make their day a little bit easier. I remember when I was 14 years old, my parents took a 19-year-old young man who was homeless, who they had never met before, into our house to live with us for a number of months just to get him back up on his feet. And those are the types of things that stick with you for your entire life. And so I remember a few years later when I was actually going to school here at UBC in the Commerce program, I had this feeling like there was more to life than just going into business and making money for myself. And so after a lot of careful consideration, I made the decision to drop out of business school and go become a humanitarian. But when I went to tell my father that, I think his exact words were, "Not while you live in my house." And to be fair, in his defense, he went on to say, "Nolan, if you want to become a humanitarian, your mother and I will support you, but you should become a business person first, because that way you'll learn how organizations run, how to raise money, how to manage it properly. You'll learn how the economies actually work, and more importantly, you will learn how to solve the problems that are actually causing poverty, rather than merely learning how to treat the symptoms of poverty." What he was saying to me is that the goal shouldn't be become a humanitarian. The goal should be become a smart humanitarian. And so from that day, I made it my objective to become a smart humanitarian. And at that point, I felt like the things that I was doing in school and the work that I was doing actually had a purpose. And it's amazing what a sense of purpose will do to your level of motivation. I went from being an average student here at UBC to actually getting a full-ride scholarship. I went on to become the valedictorian of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of BC, and I got a CFA designation. See, I had this sense that if I wasn't giving it my all, that people would die as a result of my lack of effort that could have been saved. And that sense that I had wasn't just a sense, it's the truth. It's true for me in the same way that it's true for each of you here today. And I know it sounds harsh, but I believe that if each of us don't give it our all every day, it is a fact people will die who could have been saved. And so after school and early in my career, I started looking for a charity that I believed was tackling the problems that were causing poverty, one which was not wasting money on administration expenses. But after auditing a number of charities and actually researching others further, including a number, by the way, that I won't mention by name, but you would know the ones that I'm talking about, I became frustrated to realize that a lot of them were spending up to 50% of the money that they raised from donors on administration expenses, things like salaries and rent, things like fundraising fees and advertising and other costs. Even charities that had advertisements with pie graphs that said 90% of the funds that we raise go to the end cause were spending up to 50% on administration, and they were using creative accounting merely to justify their advertisements. And I became so frustrated, and my wife became frustrated, and so we decided to go start up our own humanitarian organization. And so 6 years ago, we did exactly that. We're focusing on building schools in Sierra Leone, Africa. We have chosen Sierra Leone for a number of reasons, but the problems that we have faced there, the lessons that we have learned, are not unique to that part of the world. Our organization, one of the things that we promise, it is a founding principle, is that whatever we do, we will focus only on solutions that we believe are long-term and sustainable. And as part of that promise, we do not spend any money on North American salaries, so that 100% of the donations can actually go to the end cause. And we're trying to redefine how charities are evaluated. And so I hope that gives you just a little bit of a snapshot of the other part of me, so that when I now go on to explain what I mean by compassion kills, that you understand where I'm coming from. You understand my heart. To illustrate this point, I want to talk about a real person. Her name is Kathy Carbo. Her picture's up there on that screen. Kathy's an incredibly resilient young girl. She's had to endure far too much pain and suffering in her life. In 2001, Kathy's mother died of an unknown illness. In 2003, her father died of an unknown illness. And so at the age of 5, with no parents, she was placed into an orphanage. And a few years later, when I was traveling through Sierra Leone, I came across that orphanage, and I sat down with the kids there and saw them. I was very encouraged to see that they were happy, they were healthy, they had roofs over their head, they had food on their plate, they had clothes on their back. But I was a little bit surprised when, sitting down with Kathy, she told me that she couldn't read. She was 8 years old at the time. A couple years later, when I was on another trip down to Sierra Leone, she was 10 years old, and I went back to the same orphanage, and I sat down with Kathy again to see how far her reading had come. And she still could not read properly to me. See, what was happening is that compassion was keeping Kathy alive, but she was not developing the skills required to become truly independent. And if this were to continue on for a number of years, what would eventually happen is Kathy would likely go on to have kids, and let's say hypothetically Kathy goes and has 2 kids. There would then be 3 people completely dependent on charity. We know that's not sustainable. And so one day they would have to go out on their own, and lacking the sufficient education to lead a successful life, they would likely lead a life of poverty until one day they would get sick. And without enough medication to prolong their struggle, they would die, and this would likely happen one by one. And this is not an uncommon story in Sierra Leone. It's a country where the average person is under the age of 19. It is a very, very tough place to be. At the beginning of my story, if no one would have done anything, I will admit one person probably would have died. But because of compassion and the life-saving actions that it resulted in, 3 people probably would have died prematurely. You see, compassion kills. Compassion is one of those amazing things that is hardwired into us. It is a part of our humanity. It's the type of thing that makes grown men like me weep and cry when we see sick or dying people in Africa. Compassion is the type of thing that causes us here in this auditorium, in our seats today, to go out into the world and to make it a better place tomorrow. But compassion has a downside as well. It is so powerful. It has the ability to overcome our common sense, our reason. It makes us short-sighted. It takes our time, our attention, and our money away from long-term, sustainable solutions and focuses us on short-term solutions just to ease the pain. And if you've seen this type of pain that I'm talking about, you know what I mean, because once you've seen it, it's too late. Compassion takes over. When you look at Kathy in the eye and you realize that if you don't save her, that she probably will die, your compassion will compel you to do everything you can to save her and keep her alive, even if spending your money elsewhere would have resulted in more lives being saved in the end. I think most people here today would agree, not all of you, but most, would agree that saving people's lives merely by keeping them alive is not sustainable or efficient. But the reason that I'm here to you today, and what I want to tell you in my message, is that it isn't just inefficient, it is deadly. You see, if your compassion compels you to take an action and that action results in sustained dependence, and that sustained dependence passes on through the generations, more people will die as a result. I'm not trying to say that this is the same as directly killing people. But often, and unfortunately, in the end, the results are the same. But I want you to hear my heart here in what I'm saying. If you think I'm saying don't help, I am not. In fact, my goal, my hope for you is that when you leave here today, you will be more motivated to do humanitarian work than you were when you came here. But my plea to you today is that whatever you do, whatever causes you support, that you ensure they are specifically designed to allow the recipients of the charity to become independent of the charity. You can do this by supporting causes that help build economies and create jobs, clean water projects, microfinance, building schools, operating schools. If you are supporting an orphanage right now, I'm not saying stop, but what I am saying is be proactive. Maybe make your donations tied to the educational success of the kids, but do something, force the charity to ensure that what they're doing allows the people to become independent of the charity. When it comes to Africa in particular, we need to stop giving money to Africa, and we need to start investing in Africans. Compassion is a wonderful thing. It's an amazing thing. I'm glad that we have it. But if we want to defeat poverty, we have to ensure that our compassion does not overcome our reason, even if it means having to look the Kathys of this world in the eye and not helping them because we're focused on long-term sustainable solutions elsewhere. But if, while you are working on long-term solutions to poverty, you come across a Kathy and your compassion compels you to do something, I understand where you're coming from. See, last month, Kathy became my daughter. I know compassion kills, but I'm not willing to let it kill Kathy. Thank you.